Don't forget to check out the Hockey Podcast Network's fantasy hockey affiliate, Playline. Right now, if you use the code THPN, you can deposit as little as $5 and get a $20 bonus to play with. Plus, you can help support the Hockey Podcast Network. The $50,000 lotto may be gone, but you can still win in one of the many games on Playline. Whether you want to take a chance on hockey, basketball, or football, there's a game for you. The Hockey Podcast Network has also joined forces with Puffy Mattresses. They're not just any bed-in-a-bag company. These are America's most comfortable mattress, and right now you can get $300 off a new mattress plus a free king-size pillow. Plus, they offer a 101-night sleep trial, so if you're not satisfied with the mattress, you can return it no problem. Also, if you use our link that we will tweet out after the podcast release, you can help support us and the Hockey Podcast Network. Last but not least today, we have a fantastic deal from Reebok. Just in time for McGregor's big return to the Octagon, Reebok is offering an extra 50% off if you use the code GETDOWN, no spaces. This would be a perfect time to get yourself some fight merch or maybe some new workout gear. Whatever you're looking for, this code will save you some money. Also, same as with Puffy, if you shop through our link, you can help support us and the Hockey Podcast Network. Again, thanks for tuning in to our growing network of podcasts, and we hope you enjoy the episode.
This is the Hockey Podcast Network, your home for hockey talk on every team in the NHL.
Welcome to Offside by a Mile, the podcast for anything and everything Colorado Avalanche, and the official Avs podcast for the Hockey Podcast Network. Well, Avs fans, the current pre-All-Star break / bye week homestand, we said on Thursday's episode we're hoping for 5 of 8 in the last 4 games. At least, 6 or 7 of 10 in the 5-game homestand. Well, that's 5 of the last 8 potential points.
Yeah.
Waiting on Detroit on Monday afternoon again. So
These weird afternoon games.
I forgot about Saturday's 1 o'clock game. So let's not forget about Monday's 1 o'clock game. You could almost listen to this podcast while watching the game if you want.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Yeah.
You could be listening to this podcast while watching the game. Anyway, Jared and Tyler in studio as usual.
Buongiorno.
Sunday afternoon. We're going to obviously cover the San Jose game in a second here, but we had a very extensive talk with Tom from the Blue Notes pod.
Always good.
So we're going to have to rip through the San Jose game pretty quick and then rip through the preview of the Red Wings game because it was about 40 minutes long, as usual.
As usual.
So let's jump in. Avs destroy the San Jose Sharks, kind of as what we predicted on Thursday's episode.
Yep.
They're not a good team. They fired their coach. They don't really have much going for them. And one of those things, and I don't know if you want to talk about it, like if you want to compare this to something from before, this is very much like the first-round playoffs against the Calgary Flames last April.
Mm-hmm.
You expect the goaltending to be awful, and it's just the rest of everything was awful. Martin Jones was really good on Thursday.
Yeah,
really good.
I mean, he made some big stops, especially in that third period. He
That
made some really
game
nice ones.
Could have been out of control in the first period.
For sure. That too, yep.
What is it, 45 seconds in pretty much?
Yep.
Where Nuke goes nuts.
Mm-hmm.
The typical Nuke goal, I think. The
prototypical, yeah.
Basically go to the bottom of the circle, drive across the front of the net, put a 5-hole.
Yeah, you got to love it. I mean,
man,
the guy just loves to drive the net. And with that huge body, and he's got just great control, puck control, and he loves to score, man. I love watching him celebrate, man.
That's his
beautiful.
8th of the year.
Yeah, who would have thought? Like, there's no way anyone would have predicted that he would have 8 goals, maybe over the entire season.
Yeah.
Let alone, like, what was it? I don't know. How many games was it into the year when he first scored? 20 something?
Yeah, something like that. And it was like a 90 or something game skid.
Yeah, and now he's got like 8 goals here, and he's just been playing great hockey. So It's good to see, man.
His career high in the NHL was his rookie season at 14 goals.
Right. So hopefully,
Do you think he gets there? That's only 6
Yeah,
more. He's
probably.
probably on pace for that.
yeah, I'd say, and the pace that he's been scoring at, I guess he kind of tailed off for a bit there, but yeah, I think he will.
I think he could get past that.
Yeah.
34 good points, probably not. He's only at 17, but so he's halfway there.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely over halfway to his goal mark there. I don't know.
He might.
He deserves it. He's played, and he's not a star, but he's been everything the Avs have hoped for, everything Joe hoped for, everything you wanted from Nichushkin.
Right. And
I
for
love
such
it.
an inexpensive pickup, how can you go wrong with that?
The first period bookended by goals from the Avs here, but in the middle, the Avs end up totaling 13 shots, and I don't know what 8 of those are like solid chances.
Decent bangers for sure.
And Martin Jones was pretty much up to the task on every one of them.
Yeah, he was jonesing.
Cale Makar, though. Cale Makar.
Eat your kale.
This is the start of a good episode for Cale Makar.
It is. Is it ever?
If this YouTube video ends up getting posted, I'm wearing the same shirt I wore for last episode because Cale Makar was a legend. I have to wear my All Hail Cale shirt.
Yeah.
Again, I was going to wear my other shirt, which I'll save for a rainy day when hopefully he goes nuts. But Cale Makar gets the love today. He, with 2.5 seconds left in the period, just a seeing eye shot off of Barclay Goudreau's thigh.
Something.
I don't know.
Off something.
Under the bar, Jones doesn't even really move. It's
like
unfortunate.
four layers of screen and a tip kind of. Yep, that'll do it.
It's kind of something that has been familiar with the Avs lately. If your goalie doesn't see it, he's probably not going to save it.
Right.
Weird.
Yeah. Yeah, but, nice little walk on the line there. Kind of brings it in towards him, rips it in there.
Yeah,
so.
like you were saying, the way he moves on the line, the way he can kind of change the angle on the line, he had lots of room. He had tons of room to shoot that puck right off the bat.
Yep.
But instead, he moves it into traffic and gets that puck through, and it's in.
Right.
Not a hard shot. Not even that great of a located shot. It just finds a hole, and it gets in there.
And that's a big, skill, too. And he's already obviously got it and, the wherewithal to actually... It reminds me a lot of, Giordano, because, Giordano's really good at getting shots through traffic, too, right? Just even little wrist shots. Mm-hmm. That's a really good skill to have because, obviously, the more shots I get on net, especially through that many layers, maybe off a body, it's a good thing to be able to do, so...
Now, the third goal of the game for your Colorado Avalanche was very similar to this in the fact that there was heavy-duty screens, but very different in the fact that Ryan Graves hammered that puck.
Just a bomb right off the draw.
Again, same kind of thing. The Avs are all over the Sharks to start the second. But 10 minutes in, Kamenev, who, like you just said before we started recording, filled in fantastically, gets in a game. Wins that draw super clean.
Yep.
Ryan Graves one-times it hard.
Yeah.
And just goes under the bar.
Yeah, he's got a bomb.
Friggin' beautiful shot.
He's had some really nice bomb goals from the point this season, especially in the last 3 weeks. He's had quite a few just decent shots. So always good to see. And yeah, you mentioned Kamenev. Every time he's been put in by Bednar, he's really he's had a decent impact in every game, and he's A+ effort usually, so
Bednar had some, I think it was post-game comments about Kamenev and said last year he was kind of lackadaisical when it came to practicing, and he was just, not really committed to practicing. And this year apparently he's been a completely different player, and Bednar loves it clearly, and he gets rewarded with a big assist on this goal. But he was good. This, again, it's what we expected. We expected the Avs to be dominant in this game. I'm glad they were.
Yeah.
It's also nice that they didn't get scored on in the third, even though they tried that big post.
Yeah, shorthanded. Yeah, yikes.
Yeah, it was not good.
Again. Or I guess that was on the power play. That was them shorthanded.
Yeah, them shorthanded, yeah.
Yikes.
Not good. That's what I thought you meant.
Yeah, well, I did, but I guess I just had to rephrase it better.
But yeah, before we get to the third... Matt Calvert with a shorty of his own.
Man.
Absolutely flies when he gets the puck here and goes in on the breakaway. Beautiful move. That is a Nathan McKinnon-esque type move.
That's a power move right there.
Somebody is watching.
Yeah. It didn't look like
I want to be just like you.
It didn't look like Jones enjoyed that too much.
No, that was hilarious. That was amazing. And the best part is Calvert doesn't even care.
Yeah.
Jones is just like, oh, I'm so sorry. I have to use my blocker on your face to get up.
Let me lean on your face here.
I'm so sorry. I didn't even mean to do that. Oh.
Calvert's just underneath.
Calvert's like screw you, man.
Woo! I mean, but yeah, like the wheels on Calvert, dude. Like he just picks up the puck and takes like 3 strides and he's well ahead of both defenders. It's like, wow. Honestly, before this season, I did not know Calvert had the wheels that he has. And, Belly and Calvert on that PK is usually really good. I think, for the most part, those two have been really good on the PK. And not trying to throw the defense under the bus, but some of our defenders, like, Cole. You know how I feel about Cole. He's been pretty good. He's been pretty good for a while now. But, our PK struggles. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Which... it's nice. It's nice to see the Avs, first of all, walk away from a game without a goal against, which means the penalty kill did a good job.
Yep.
Now the Sharks only had 2 power plays, but there was that 4-on-4, which was fantastic in the third period.
Right.
That 4-on-4 stretch was entertaining as all hell.
It was.
That is why overtime used to be 4-on-4, because it used to be that fun.
Right. Yeah,
3-on-3 is taken over because holy man.
It's a whole different beast now, but yeah.
But yeah, like across the board, the Avs dominate this game.
Oh yeah,
38 shots to 27, 62% on faceoffs. Now, I guess one thing they didn't dominate on, could have got a power play goal here, boys. Maybe do stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
frustrating.
It is frustrating. I mean, yeah, like we were already talking about that power play in the third period. It was pretty bad. We couldn't even get set up at all. Gave the puck away. I can't remember who shot the puck, but shoots it right off the post. It's like, boys, you can't be giving that up on the power play, especially.
That's the old. You guys want to get back in the game? Here,
right? Like
score shorty.
Yeah, classic third period. Like I don't know why that had to happen, but that's basically mostly the only bad thing that happened all game. Mm-hmm. And we still, Grubauer gets his shutout.
Nice to see
his first shutout of the year, which it's good to see him get that. He's been playing really good. Like we'll talk to Tom in a bit here, but like he had 2 really good games here in a row. Overall, like this 2020 has been really looking quite good for the Avs.
Yeah.
So.
And obviously hindsight's 2020, but even then the recency bias, it makes you feel like, oh yeah, of course that's Grubauer's first shutout of the year. But it's like before this latest kind of stretch of bad play by the Avs in general, let's not forget that Frankie and Gruby deserve probably 4 shutouts in like a stretch of like 6 or 7 games.
Right. There was like 2 times there for Frankie where he could have had a shutout.
I know
and
there was one for Gruby.
Yeah, there's a couple, I think.
Right, and it's just like, this is the first team. It feels like, obviously, Adam Werner, they got the combined shutout. So there's a shutout for the team, but there's not a shutout for the goalie.
Yeah.
So this is the first like statistical shutout for a goalie of the season. And it's about damn time. Because it means the Avs didn't get scored on in a third period for once.
Right.
Hooray.
And, defense looked quite a bit. Everybody looked just more cohesive and fluent in this game, which is, especially playing the Sharks, it's good. It's a damn good thing.
Yeah.
We couldn't not show up for this game, and we did, so it's good.
So, yeah, moving on to the Blues game, which we're going to be joined by Tom in a moment. But just a little bit of pre-game stuff. David Perron scores that first goal. We don't really get too heavy into that with Tom.
Mm-hmm.
David Perron scores that first goal, and at first glance, it looks really bad on Grubauer because he just stands there. It's kind of what Jones looked like on the Makar goal.
Right.
First of all, again, we've talked about this. Grubauer's a small guy. Ryan Graves just blocked a shot right before that, and he went down to block this one again on Perron.
Yeah.
Grubauer does the right thing by standing up, because most likely that puck's not coming in the lower foot of the net.
Yeah, with Graves.
So there's
down like that.
there's no point in going down and giving up the top corners of the net. And then just the way Perron is loading up for that shot, it looks like he's going blocker side, and that's what Grubauer is looking at, and that's why he gets beat glove side so badly. Is again partly because Grubauer is not a very big guy. He has to read the shot to give himself a better chance, and he just read that one wrong. It's unfortunate, but it's what makes it look so bad.
Yeah.
But man, that Perron, it's kind of very much like what ends up happening with Burakovsky's release later in the game.
Yeah.
When you can fool a goalie with your release, man, does it make them look bad every time.
Right. Yeah.
It's such a huge part of stopping the puck that it's not fair to say you got caught sleeping, but it makes it look like you got caught sleeping for sure. And I'll tell you right here from firsthand experience, man, it feels bad when you read a shot wrong like that. You're just like, really? He did that?
Yeah.
That is not what I was expecting. And another goal we didn't really get into at all, I think. I don't even think we talked about it, is that first goal of the game, which was an absolute broken play.
Yeah.
Hilarious. I think it was said best by, I think it was Rycroft on the broadcast. It was Rantanen's best looking mistake that he's made in a long time.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. Because he flubs it. It looks like he double clutches it. I'm going to rip it across the McKinnon. Actually, maybe I'll shoot. Oh, I just lost it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then it goes on to Graves, and Graves makes such a good pass.
Yeah.
One-timer pass through two guys' feet.
Yeah.
Perfectly onto the tape of McKinnon for a tackle.
Or Gerard.
Oh, sorry, Gerard.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. But
I had Graves on my mind.
yeah. I mean, man.
What a good pass. What a good pass.
And the defense has looked really good lately, I got to say, especially offensively.
Classic. He is basically behind the net.
Oh, yeah.
Defenseman, 3-on-2 rush, and he's basically behind the goal line.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, and yeah, jumping in it's something that only helps the Avs, especially with some of the talent that they have back there. Graves, Gerard, Makar, they're all so good at jumping in at the right times lately.
Basically,
too.
the whole NHL, you can't. It's almost like saying, "Oh, this guy's a butterfly goalie." Yeah, everybody's a butterfly goalie. It's just that is the same as saying, "Yeah, this team uses their first defenseman. They have that fourth guy in the rush." Yeah, every team does that.
Yeah.
But the way the Avs do it is just so aggressive.
Yeah.
And that's part of why they are one of the highest scoring teams in the league.
Yep.
And they might actually be now. Let me check.
I mean, yeah, they're probably getting back up there, right? So, what were they? I think they dropped maybe.
I think they were third or something.
Yeah, third or fourth, and Toronto kind of took over there with a lot of goals over their last little stretch here.
Yeah, the Avs are back to second,
Yeah.
3.6 a game going into the Red Wings game on Monday.
There you go, and that's the Avs game. Is we know for the most part, we've had one shutout here. For the most part, it's we score a lot and we let a few in.
Offense wins the game for us, but we know in April that needs to change. So it's got to start changing now.
Yeah, and you know what? It has a bit, which is good, Not letting in as many goals, and especially, third period goals, which has been obviously an issue.
That's a relief. That was a relief over the last two games. Hopefully that is harped on over the break here while the players are in town. Obviously, some of them are going away, I would assume.
Yeah.
Probably Mexico.
Yeah, somewhere. Get some warm weather. And
yeah. But until then, let's flip over and join in with Tom. So this week's Across the Rink guest is a familiar face, a voice you hear on almost every single episode of Offside by a Mile, and one that you've heard in interview twice now. This will be the third appearance for Tom from the Blue Notes pod, representing the St. Louis Blues for the Hockey Podcast Network. How's it going, Tom?
I'm glad to score the hat trick with you guys here on Offside by a Mile, and I'm glad you introduced me as a familiar face and not a familiar foe.
Oh, there you go.
of course.
It's not that bad. Come on. Yeah. Now,
well, we'll talk in April.
now,
Yeah,
if
exactly.
if we meet in the second or somehow the first round, that would be absolutely ridiculous if that happens. But if we meet in the second round of the playoffs, it will be for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Faux show.
But yet, at the same time, if it is the second round of the playoffs, there will be relief in St. Louis because at least we won't have to face Ben Bishop, and that's I still have PTSD over that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of teams are going to have that feeling going into the playoffs. Like, I do not want Bishop ever again.
I know exactly how you feel because he absolutely demolished the Avs this week.
Yeah. Yep.
He's in playoff form almost right now, and that's scary.
So we on Thursday's episode of the podcast, we talked about Ben Bishop for, I don't know, 20 minutes. I think we spent 45 minutes breaking that game down. And it just came back to the fact that when Ben Bishop is on his game, he is not fair. Like, actually.
Yeah, human cheat code.
Yeah, I call him the demigod.
Yeah,
there you go.
He becomes one in the playoffs.
6.5 feet tall. If he is covering the holes that big goalies have, you literally have nothing to shoot at.
Mm-hmm.
No, you don't. And yet, despite his size, he's still quick and agile. He knows where he needs to be.
Yeah.
Very smart goalie. And one of the biggest regrets as far as St. Louis Blues prospects that got away.
He was a Blues prospect?
He came up with the St. Louis Blues. He actually grew up in St. Louis, as a matter of fact, the pride of Chaminade High School. And he came up with the Blues. And the Blue, at the time he was coming up, he got in some games with the Blues, but we still had Halak and Elliott at the time.
Right.
And he wasn't going to unroot one of those two because, like, when he was coming up, that's when that pairing was in its peak. So he ran out of waiver options, and then he ended up getting traded to Ottawa. Ottawa, they couldn't, for some reason, Ottawa couldn't find space for him. I mean, I know it's Ottawa. It's hilarious.
There's just not space in the budget,
Yeah, exactly. And then he ends up getting traded to Tampa for, a grindy bottom six forward and a pick, and, the rest is history.
Yeah.
I totally thought Ottawa drafted him. That's what wow, that is crazy. See, this is the thing about the NHL. If you want to be like a really crazy in-depth fan, man, there is some player movement that always comes at early in guys' careers. It's crazy.
Especially, I feel like goalies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right before the beginning of the year, I did a special like top 10 trades of the past decade for the Blues. And it's funny when you see like trades like Eric Brewer being traded for the pick that became Jordan Binnington. You had like Wade Redden became the pick that became Sammy Blais.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you can go into what I call just a hockey reference vortex and just start connecting trades, and it's fascinating.
I've seen some really good trade trees, especially involving the Oilers.
The
Oilers trade trees are always good.
Blues have some good ones as well. I mean, you can actually connect Brendan Shanahan to Jordan Binnington.
Nice. Yeah, just like, it's crazy when you start doing stuff like that. You're just, whoa.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
That's why when you have bad GMs, it really hurts your team for a very long time.
Right.
Or in the Blues case, the Blues had a GM in the late 80s, early 90s named Ron Caron, who was basically, I swear, he must have played like, NHL on the, on Sega Genesis and just did trade after trade after trade. And he decided I can do this in real life. And he just, I mean, he just made so many trades in that era. And that became like so many. There's so many 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon type of storylines you can have with the Blues. It's crazy.
Yeah, sounds about right, man. Oh, trades are fun. Trades are fun because you can do this with trades, but they're also very painful.
Yeah,
they are, especially if you're a player getting traded.
That too, and especially if you're a team that needs to win a cup or wants to win a cup. And once you get that cup, then it's just fun games at that point.
Well, right? Yeah, pretty much.
Right,
pretty much.
Anyway, the Blues and Avs had a rare afternoon game on Saturday, which Tom and I both forgot about.
Yes, we did.
I tuned in right at the end of the second. You tuned in a little before me, I think. I saw on Twitter.
About halfway through the second. It was basically right when I got home, and about a minute later, Cale Makar scored.
Well, we're sorry that we had to do that to you, but it was
That's
fun.
that's all right. I needed a new TV anyway. It's fine.
That was a fantastic tweet. If anybody didn't catch Tom's tweet, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Always gotta love tweets from the room.
Yeah. So anyway, the Avs and Blues played. I think what I just said on your podcast was about the afternoon game of afternoon games. 24-18 was the final in shots. 18 being the Avs that won the game.
Of course.
Not exactly ideal. Most games you're not going to win with 18 shots.
No.
Let's hear your take. Was it the fact that Jordan Binnington played like Jordan Binnington did on Saturday, or was it something else that let the Avs take this one with 18 shots?
Well, I think, for one, I mean, the afternoon game, as you said, it felt very much like an afternoon game. And to me, watching afternoon hockey always feels like I'm watching hockey on a different planet. It just doesn't feel right.
No, it doesn't.
And there's one thing that could take some sizzle off the steak that is the Blues and Avs, gunning for first place in the entire Western Conference. It would be an afternoon game. I thought that, for one, one observation I had was that Philip Grubauer looked really good. I mean, he allowed, he did allow at least one or two goals he probably would like back, but at the same time, I mean, he made some big stops for you guys and can really kind of, there were times where it looked like, the Blues were going to, like say the Avs would score and the Blues would go back and, start pumping shots at Grubauer, and Grubauer was up to the task every time. And, that often led to Avs goals down the road. So I thought Grubauer had a good game for you guys. As far as the Blues side of things, I mean, Sean Tierney of Charting Hockey had a good chart this morning talking about how the Blues allow the fewest shots per game in the NHL, at least lately, but their quality that they allow can be, pretty tasty for other teams. And we saw that a few times in the Avs game where, like, you have Jost getting a rebound right in the slot where he needs to be, where you have Cale Makar getting a shot in the high circle, which he worked hard to get. Burakovsky got a shot in the slot. So there is an issue with the Blues this year when it comes to the quality of shots that they do allow. And I think it kind of bit them a little bit. But also on the same side of that, I mean, it was kind of a, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde game for Jordan Binnington. And you don't see that a lot from him because he made a few big stops against the Avs, I thought, in the first period. I didn't think he was looking.
He robbed McKinnon.
Oh yeah, that was straight out robbery there, and at the end of the first period, I was okay with it. I mean, I thought Binnington looked fine, but then, second period he got the yips for some reason. That that on the two goals from Makar and McKinnon, those were ones that sneaked in on the near post, and those are ones that as a goalie you don't like to allow because you like to count on having that post covered. So I think it was a mixture of a lot of things, quality of shots and then Binnington having a moment or two that he liked back. Yeah,
I would agree. That was Makar and Burakovsky you were talking about with the short side. That we talked about this. Burakovsky, man, that wrister, that release that he had, it's definitely one you want back if you're Binnington for sure. But it is such a hard one to read, and if he puts it in the right spot, that is almost unstoppable.
He absolutely did it, and that was another guy that stood out for you guys as well to me was Burakovsky because on the Jost goal, you have him running along the near boards, crashing the net and just flying at speed, and his shot doesn't go in there, but Jost gets the rebound. But then the goal that he did score, almost the same thing where he's rushing the net, and as you said, he's got a very dangerous release. And to me, he's always been one of those guys where it's like you always wonder if there's a hidden gear in Burakovsky just waiting to be utilized. And definitely. I think I kind of saw that a little bit Saturday.
Yeah, and it's been a while for sure. That's probably his best game in
a long time.
Month, probably
at least. Yeah, and I feel like that's something with Burakovsky is this guy gets on hot streaks, as we saw already earlier in the year where he had multiple game winners back to back. So that's definitely something to look out for because, I got him in my hockey pool. I might have to slap him in there and get him off the bench because
Perfect
this
timing.
he's probably going to go on a tear. I guess there's only one game, which kind of sucks.
Great time for an 11-day break for Berkey.
He's gonna rip the Red Wings for 5 goals now. Watch.
Hopefully, send it off on a good note.
Make it worth putting him in for the week.
I guess, my kind of a general question for you. You guys are heading into your big break here now. What's the vibe, going into this big break, and what do you think how this will help or hinder the Blues?
Well, I mean, the Blues going into the break, they've lost 2 now. They lost, of course, to Colorado, and then they lost to Philly midweek, 4-3 in overtime. Not really too bent about that loss. That was a good game overall, and Philly's a team that's kind of on the rise. So those are losses, and we still get the points. So that's, I'm not too hindered about that. But before then, the Blues were playing some really good hockey. They had won 4 straight, albeit against teams that they needed to beat, like, the Ducks were in there, the Sharks were in there, Buffalo was in there. I forget the other team, but it was the Rangers were in there as well. And so their form has been kind of it's been good, not great lately. I mean, I say that as a team that has a commanding lead of the Western Conference at the moment. But I kind of got the feeling from this team just in the recent weeks that it's almost like they knew the All-Star break was coming up. And, and they're not facing, besides Colorado twice, really no rivals, just a lot of Eastern Conference teams. And it felt kind of like the doldrums were kind of starting to set in a little bit, just kind of like a ho-hum stretch of games for them. So with this break coming up, I'm looking forward to some players getting rested, like Colton Parayko, who was not in against the Avs in the last 2 games. He's dealing with an injury that Berube wants to sit him out for and make sure it's properly healed up for the, final 30 games or so. So he'll be back by the time the break is over. Sammy Blais, another one that he might be back by the time the break is over. He was a big part of the Blues to start off the season. He's been hurt for much of it. So in that regard, I'm looking forward to the Blues coming back from the break. Of course, you worry if you're a fan of a team that's playing well about a 11-day layoff, forming some rust on the team, and maybe, they come off, when they come back, not playing too hot. But I'm of the mind that, it's not like the Blues were playing like unbelievable, oh my God, this is great hockey. So I'm okay with them having the 11-game break here, 11-day break.
And then starting off their games with the Western Canada road trip too.
Yeah, those trips are always fun. Although, I mean, they had one earlier this year. In fact, actually, the one they had earlier this year, it was that Vancouver game where they got the 3-0 breakaway in overtime, and Markstrom got left hanging out to dry as the rest of his team did a Benny Hill routine behind Bennington.
I only remembered the fact that it was Vancouver that was part of that. I forgot it was the Blues.
I wonder why. 2 Calgary guys. Go figure.
Oh, weird.
But the Blues are a team that are usually pretty good on the road, except in Denver apparently. So I'm not too worried about that. But that's going to be a series where it's like they're going to have to be right back on their game, and it's like. And they know that this is a veteran team, and this is a team that needs to defend its top spot in the West. And I have a feeling that Berube will have the guys coming out swinging after the All-Star break.
One thing I want to touch on before we get away from Saturday's game too far. I never thought I would get to see this in a real live NHL hockey game. Alex Pietrangelo, when Landeskog has the wide open net, throws his stick at him.
Oh, man.
I have seen that in minor hockey. I have seen that out of one of my very good friends in a minor hockey game. He, on the other hand, threw the stick out of the rink, not at someone. That was pretty funny. But I never thought I would get to see something like this in a real live NHL hockey game. Safe to say Pietrangelo was pretty pissed, or...
Yeah, I think so. I mean, my first thought when I saw that was like the old Austin Powers. Who throws a shoe? This is like, in only for AHL. Like, who throws a stick?
Yeah.
That's pretty much what that is right there. I mean,
Fair.
I think that, and Pietrangelo is not usually a fiery guy like that. I mean, he's not. He's not a big hitter. He's not he's not a guy that gets into fights. I don't think he's ever had a fight in his career. And but he's a captain, and he's a guy that likes to kind of set the tone for his team a lot in the locker room. He's a locker room leader. And I think he was just frustrated because the Blues had made it 4-3. They had their chances in the last 2 minutes, including that controversial icing call that helped the Blues out there a little bit.
Man,
I'll admit they had some fortune there.
I don't know.
Agree with you on that.
I don't know what that linesman was looking at. Like, just as the puck was hitting the guy on the blue line, he looked down the ice at his partner to make sure he was still calling icing. And it's just like, first of all, we named this podcast for a reason. I don't need icings to be challengeable as well, okay? I don't need the Avs to start 2 of these crappy linesman challenges. I don't need this in my life.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is maybe I should rename Blue Notes into Icing by a Mile?
Well, exactly. If they would have won this game, I would have said yes.
Yeah, so they won't, and that's why you had Pietrangelo throwing a stick, because I think he was just frustrated because he knew that was a game that the Blues could have gotten at least a point from, and it didn't happen. It's and like I said, I mean, it wasn't entirely on him too. I mean, like I said, Binnington probably allowed a goal or two he shouldn't have allowed, but yeah, it was very uncharacteristic of Petro, basically, bottom line. But I understood where he was coming from, and doesn't make it right though. I mean,
No.
you don't throw sticks at players. I mean, come on, this isn't your local beer league.
Your local beer league, the pond, anything like that. Now,
Yeah.
the Avalanche definitely, in my opinion, did not deserve to win this hockey game. I'm not even saying just based on their third period or the way they've played their third periods lately. They didn't really deserve to be up 4-2 going into the third, in my opinion. And I'm not saying it's because Binnington played bad. They just got very opportunistic. But having 11 shots after 2 does not mean you, like, to me, instantly, you have 11 shots, you don't deserve to win a hockey game going into a third period. But the way Jake Allen came in and played must be pretty exciting for Blues fans, especially you, because you're such a big fan of Jake Allen. I know you kind of joked when we were doing our interview with you for your podcast about Jake Allen starting the last game of the year. Obviously that's not going to happen, especially if there's something on the line. If there's nothing on the line, I could see him playing that, give Binnington some rest potentially. But would you, if you were Berube, would you legitimately think about starting Jake Allen if there's the first place in the Central on the line?
Well, I think it really would depend. We're kind of getting to an interesting point here with Jake Allen and Jordan Binnington, and one that I didn't think we'd ever see again. I think back to when, like, our first podcast, that we did together. And at that point, Jake Allen was still shaky Jakey. He was the, former number 1 turned back up. And 100%. I'm looking at his role on the team. Like, why is he here? Him and his $4.35 million contract. In fact, I tried to offer him to you guys, and you guys were like, nope, don't want nothing to do with him. But, Jake Allen at this point, here at the All-Star break has a .222 goals against average and a .927 save percentage, 17 games played, 14 of them started. I'm almost at the point, and this isn't nothing against Jordan Binnington, because Binnington's been fine himself, except against the Avs, apparently. But yeah, I'm almost at the point where if I'm looking at that April 4th game and, maybe Binnington's not been playing well, I do wonder about maybe do I start Jake Allen in that game? Because, it's partly just because it would have to depend on how both players' forms are at that point. And when you have a team that has 2 good goalies, like apparently the Blues do, you kind of can go, okay, who's the hotter hand? In this case, I mean, Binnington has a .252 goals against and a .912 save percentage. He's doing fine. So I don't know if you go that drastic yet, but at the same time, this is 2 games straight that Jordan Binnington has struggled against the Avalanche. And, I guess this is more of a question for you, but it's like, if you have a bad string of performance against one team in particular, does it start getting into your head as a goalie that, and you start fearing seeing that Avalanche, crest on the jersey going forward? I mean, do you think there's any validity to that?
For a guy like me who's not of the ilk of these guys, obviously, yeah, I've definitely had that get in my head. I've also had the first shot of the game jitters before too. Those suck. Those suck to have.
I don't think Binner gets those, though.
No, I don't think so. Luckily. But I can definitely see it. But the thing is, with these guys, especially any pro athlete, period, the sports psychologist these guys have access to, I doubt it's a thing. Like, I really do doubt that it's in there at all. But if this was 3 games that were staggered pretty close together, I think maybe. But the fact that it's so far away, I doubt it's going to affect them at all.
Well, and not only that, but it's like, Binnington's about the last goalie that I would expect to have an issue like that, just because of his personality and the way he just lets stuff roll off of him without a care in the world. In fact, I don't know if you guys caught it, but when he was skating off the ice, he actually cupped his, glove to his ear, like, because the Avs fans were cheering that he was being pulled. And he's kind of taunting the Avs fans, like, I can't hear you, so, and he just kind of walked down the, walkway, and that was that. So I think that was his message, that the Avs are not in his head.
Don't worry. Avs fans will not forget that.
I'm sure they won't.
But like you said, right, the whole "do I look nervous" thing.
I was going to bring that up.
Jordan Binnington's motto for sure.
Right.
Hey, anything to forget that a Kroenke owns your team.
That's true.
Yeah.
Speaking as a St. Louisan that has a grievance or 2 against the Kroenke family.
Yeah, I know you've aired that out a little bit here before, and I do not blame you.
Okay,
I do not blame you.
Okay.
I don't. Yeah. I'm with you. Yeah, and again with that Jake Allen versus Binnington start at the end of the year. That's a big final 2 games for the Blues there. You got the Stanley Cup rematch. Or Stanley Cup final rematch with the Bruins, and then you have the Avalanche to end the year. That's quite an unexpected final 2 games in a season that I've ever seen, I think.
If that doesn't get any Blues fans or the Blues players prepared and pumped for the playoffs, nothing else will. Mm-hmm. Those are going to be 2 big games, and that's and for whether it deserves it or not. A lot of fans are going to be looking at how the Blues do in those 2 games, and and seeing how that sets the tone for the playoffs. If they go into the playoffs with 2 big losses, you're going to have that old St. Louis Blues doubt, falling into your head. The years and years of playoff disappointments that Blues fans have had to endure, for the past 50 years before the Stanley Cup final and the Stanley Cup win. But if they come in with 2 wins, I mean, all bets are off.
That's true.
That's and as we talked about on Blue Notes, the NHL is a league where it's like you just need to get in. Mm-hmm. You can be an 8th seed and dreams can happen. Dreams can come true. Your team fooled with a bunch of jerks can make history.
Yeah, exactly.
So 2 things before I'm done with you.
I
don't know what Jared's got planned, but David Perron versus Cale Makar. Cale Makar comes out on top for the 2nd time in a row. We didn't have an official challenge on Twitter before Saturday's game like we did again in the last one, but I think it's safe to say that Cale Makar outperformed David Perron again, and is still not going to the All-Star game, which is a shame.
I don't know. They both got goals on Saturday.
Yeah, but Cale Makar's was clearly more spectacular.
Was it? Okay, I'll give you that. His goal was nice. I'll give you that for sure. Perron's goal.
Perron's was actually, so we're gonna have to talk about this on our part of this podcast. But people have been very unhappy with Grubauer as of late. Not
really?
Me. Oh man, it's frustrating. It is one of the most frustrating things about doing these podcasts. But people are going to be pissed off about this goal from Grubauer's standpoint because he doesn't move. But Perron looks like he's going to go far side, blocker side, and somehow just rips it under the bar glove side. That is a really nice shot. Really nice shot.
Yeah, he knows where to place him, and that spot where he shot it from, that high circle, that's his playground this year. I mean, he loves that particular spot on the ice. And yeah, that was a good goal for sure. And it was, and I think part of it, I mean, I don't know if Grubauer had the greatest look at Perron. I think there was a little bit of traffic in front of him, kind of like the Makar goal. I mean, the Makar goal, there was a lot of traffic in front of Binnington as well. But still on that Makar goal, though, I mean, just, the kid's a rookie and he has the puck and he, instead of getting the yips like rookies do and, they try to force a pass or something like that, he keeps the puck, dangles it along the blue line and finds himself some space. That is, and just, the finish was great too. But I mean, for me, it was, the setup in that goal was just like, it looked like I was watching like a young Paul Coffey out there.
Just, the ice in his veins on the blue line like that. Like he is less than a foot away from the blue line with a man on him. And he's just like, yeah, I'm going to go over there to the open ice. It's fine. Like, I'm going to get there. Don't worry about it.
Now, I brought up Paul Coffey partly because Paul Coffey was also not great in his own end. And I think Makar's got something to work on there. But you can't deny that Makar's got some offensive chops.
Oh, yeah. 6 of 6 defensemen on the Avs have some area to work on in the defensive zone.
Yeah, that's probably not wrong.
A beautiful yet flawed core.
Yeah.
Yes.
Second thing I wanted to touch on, again, since we're looking at the playoffs, looking at the playoff run, do you see the Blues, since this is the last time we're going to talk to you until the trade deadline, do you see the Blues being active at trade deadline time?
No, it's kind of like, it's like a Picasso. Why ruin a good thing? Why paint an extra stroke on it when it's working for you right now? The only thing I could see them doing is maybe adding a forward, but it would be a situation of, it was kind of like the same thought with like a Taylor Hall.
Did they add? Did they add last year?
They only traded for the legend that is Michael Del Zotto. At the deadline,
right.
they had some defensive injuries. They brought in Del Zotto. I think Del Zotto played like 2 games for them, but he got his name on the cup, even though he never played. No, so it would have to be a situation like that. But even still, I think this Blues team compared to last year is deeper than they were. I mean, they're still going to get Sammy Blais back. They're going to have Colton Parayko come back. They have a young defenseman named Nico Mikkola that really established himself recently, just in some fill-in work, and I think he's going to be, a part of this Blues team going forward. He was sent back down to San Antonio, but I think that's just for the break, so he can get some games in. But yeah, I don't. The only thing as I was saying with Taylor Hall, it would have to be a situation where it would have to be someone that they feel could add to the team without taking away somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I just, I don't know if they'll do anything big. It would be like a bottom 6 type that they get in just to, fill in a gap.
Is there a chance Tarasenko gets back? Oh, I just took that from Jared.
Oh, that's cool. I was just I was going to ask that too.
It's been very quiet on the Tarasenko front. Whenever Berube gets asked about Tarasenko, basically keeps saying he's coming along. I don't think his timetable has changed. I mean, they're still, when he went down, they were still looking at like the end of March, maybe for him, maybe. So I think there's still some hope that he comes back in time for the playoffs, but they're not. But based on how silent they've been, I don't know if they're necessarily counting on it, especially since the Blues have played very well in his absence. I mean, as we talked about on my podcast, I think a big reason why David Perron is going to the All-Star game and why he leads the team in scoring and points is because he has kind of filled in a void that Tarasenko left, and he's stepped up and become what I think a lot of Blues fans thought he could have been when he was drafted over 10 years ago by the Blues.
For sure.
Yeah.
Right, and like that's the thing about Tarasenko is being out for that long is Like, will he still have the same kind of jump that he has had in the past? And I guess, it's good that Perron is playing that way, obviously, this year for the Blues, because they've kind of needed an extra player like that since, Tarasenko went down. And it's funny because honestly, like, obviously I'm not a huge Blues fan, but I kind of forgot about him almost over the course of this season, just simply because O'Reilly and Perron have been playing so well, and the team itself has just been playing so well. It's like, oh yeah, Tarasenko's injured.
He's also kind of a quiet stud too when it comes to outside of the St. Louis Blues market. Like, when he is playing, he's generally I'm not saying that he's not flashy and he doesn't score the big goals. Like, those do make the highlight reels, but he's not very all over the place when it comes to watching the highlight shows for the rest of the league.
Well, he's also not an Ovechkin, in that, Ovechkin likes to party and, likes to take his shirt off and dance for the Stanley Cup. I mean, things like that. Tarasenko is definitely more muted, compared to a guy like Ovechkin. His personality, he's pretty quiet, pretty humble. And you're right in that. I mean, he's kind of become the face of the franchise, almost kind of like by default, just because there really hasn't been anyone else like Tarasenko up until now.
Yeah, they didn't have that stud offensive guy.
They really didn't. And it was like, I think the last real offensive stud the Blues had before Tarasenko probably would have been Tkachuk.
It's kind of what I was thinking too,
yeah. Yeah, and there was a couple year gap between him and Tarasenko. So, but now it's like when he comes back, I mean, he's still going to have the same team around him that won the Stanley Cup for him. But it's like you've had these players like Perron step up in his absence. You've had Ryan O'Reilly solidifying his place on the team. Braden Shen, Jaden Schwartz are a good partnership. You're seeing guys like, so many players on the Blues, stepping up this year that Tarasenko doesn't have to carry the offense anymore. And he isn't necessarily the face of the franchise anymore. Even I would go as far to say almost that I think a guy like Pietrangelo or maybe even O'Reilly is kind of starting to take that face of the franchise label. So what kind of player does that mean for Tarasenko when he comes back to where he becomes part of the machine instead of the face of the machine? That's going to be an interesting question. And then it's one I kind of worry about if he comes back in the playoffs and he's, doesn't have that quite of a jump yet, is that you add such a big piece like that to the playoff run, and what does that do for team chemistry? I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there, but it's something I've thought about, and thinking about where does Tarasenko go from here?
For sure. Anything else, Jared?
I think I'm good.
Okay, I got one. I lied.
Uh-oh.
Is it funny to you watching, because it's funny to me, is it funny to you from inside the Blues fandom, is it funny watching the rest of the NHL copy the Blues and firing coaches left, right, and center?
Not only that, but firing good coaches. Yeah. I mean, Mike Yeo was trash.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, in fact, actually, Mike Yeo had an article in The Athletic within the last week talking about, what he was thinking when, the Blues won the Stanley Cup without him. And, I kept reading the article and I kept playing REM's Everybody Hurts in my head as I was reading it, because that's what it kind of sounded like. Awesome. But it's like, it's, the NHL is kind of a copycat league. Very. I think back, the Blues were one of the first teams that had a puppy on their team, Barkley, the dog.
That's true.
And now it seems like every team has a puppy now, so it's, and one thing I even talked about with Corey and Richie, our Arizona podcast on the Hockey Podcast Network is, they were kind of worried that there'd be another, like teams would start to have another Layla, the sick girl that became kind of the team inspiration. Thankfully, that hasn't materialized yet.
It will.
I think
it will.
I'm sure it will, but it's like, but the problem is like you're going to think back to Layla and it's like, okay, you're copycatting. The thing with the coaches, though, it's just bizarre. I mean, especially when you look at a guy like a Gerard Gallant, who to me, that's the most surprising story of the year, is because his team was fine. They're second in the Pacific against an uprising Arizona team. Gallant helped build Vegas into what he was. I thought Gallant could have been there for, could have been one of those coaches like a Barry Trotz.
Yeah, 10 years
with
later.
the team for like a 10 years plus. Exactly. Instead, they gave him the boot for Peter DeBoer.
I mean,
It's just like, we were kind of talking about that on my podcast. We like to think that there is more of an open space for, unknowns, kind of like a Craig Berube to come in and, really stake their claim in the league. But then you still have the Peter DeBoer hire, just to me still feels like, good old boys network, kicking in there. I mean, a team like Vegas doesn't need to make that kind of a shift, in my opinion.
Agree.
well, and like his immediate track record is not negative. Like, I mean, yeah, I think we were all equally as surprised with that firing and hiring.
For sure.
So
So before the end of the season, where do you think Gerard Gallant ends up?
I still lean Red Wings.
I don't even know. But like Red Wings, and like you said on the Blue Notes pod when we were on there, Tom, like New Jersey kind of does make sense the more I think about it too. Yeah.
Ottawa's not firing their coach because that costs too much money.
Yeah, exactly. And then Gallant will cost them too much money.
Yeah.
So that's not,
That's a double whammy, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Can't have that, Eugene. No, I mean, I'm kind of with Jared. I mean, I look at the two teams, New Jersey and Detroit, and it's like, to me, the rebuild in New Jersey wouldn't be as bad as Detroit's. I mean, Detroit has some young pieces, but it still feels like they're a couple years away.
They're very far away.
Yeah, and yes, you get to work with Steve Yzerman, which is has its perks, I guess, in Detroit. And yeah, you do get some nice young players to play with. I mean, probably Lafreniere if the way the season's going. But if I'm a Gerard Gallant, I mean, time's ticking, and you just took you took your team to the Stanley Cup final just a couple seasons ago. You want to get back into a position where you could do it again in the next couple of years. Mm-hmm. So that's where I think that goes.
Yeah.
Well, for those of you fans that are odd and want to listen to St. Louis Blues talk, you can go check out the Blue Notes pod on everywhere you get your podcast, just like you're checking us out on OBAM. But what I would tune into the Blue Notes podcast for is in-depth All-Star Game coverage, because it is there. Tom will be there in a media capacity, so he will have some inside outs. He'll be there for Media Day on Thursday, right?
It is Thursday, yes. So it'll be the next episode of Blue Notes will be out before all that. So that episode will probably be just like a primer. If you're in St. Louis, this is what's happening when at the All-Star Game, and probably some other All-Star facts and stuff like that. But I will be there at the All-Star Game. To cover Media Day on Thursday. Ask the players stupid questions, and then Friday I'll be there for the skills competition. Saturday for the game itself. So I'm looking forward to it. I feel I'm very lucky in getting, credentials to cover such a media like this and an event like this, especially not just for the Hockey Podcast Network, but for my employers at KMOX. They actually legit want me to be there to help them out too. So
sweet double whammy.
It's an honor, and it feels it's gonna be so weird when I'm there, and I'm actually gonna get paid for being there. It's weird.
Hell yeah.
So
I wish I would have had
that with a stick.
I wish I would have had the foresight to get you to ask McKinnon a stupid question for me.
There's still time.
Maybe I'll have to tweet you one.
Yeah.
If I can think of something good.
Well, Nate, have you ever had a stick thrown at you?
Yeah.
Well, back in Pee Wee hockey.
Yeah, you never know. You might uncover some kind of brilliant story from his past.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good one.
Yeah, like how he took out a kid's eye by throwing a stick like a javelin, and this is the first time he's ever copping to it because the statute of limitations ran out.
You never know. There you go.
Never know.
Well, Tom, it was a blasty blast. Thanks for joining us on Across the Rink this week, and like you said to us, good luck, but not too much. And hopefully that last game of the year means something.
Well, no matter what happens in that last game, we'll be there, us talking about it. hopefully before, so you guys can make a prediction that fails, and
nope.
we'll go from there.
No dice.
Oh boy.
Oh, it's gonna have to be a review episode. No.
Again,
All
thanks,
right,
Tom, and have a good one.
Yeah, enjoy the
Yeah,
All-Star festivities.
Thanks, guys. Always a pleasure.
Again, thanks to Tom from the Blue Notes podcast. Let's kind of wrap up the episode here with a bit of a preview on the Red Wings, or as Tom so lovingly put it, the Dead Things. If I can spit it out of my mouth.
Ta-da, Junior.
Yeah, so the Red Wings are in town on Monday, probably right about when you're listening to this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
1:00 in the afternoon, Martin Luther King Day. Figured out what the hell the day off was.
We're like, why is there an
What is going
afternoon
on?
game? What the heck?
This is one of the problems with being Canadian.
We all got different holidays and crap.
Yeah. But yeah, the Red Wings are in town. The Colorado Avalanche wannabes from a few years ago.
What, you trying to break our record, boy?
Yeah, Cale Makar is setting all the records. They're just like, come on, man, we want to try one too.
What's a record we can break? Least amount of points in a year.
Got
Let's
it.
go.
Done deal.
But yeah, that's last game of the homestand and last game before the 11-odd day break here, including the All-Star break, which should be fun to watch as we've kind of, it's fun.
As we record this episode, the Hockey Podcast Network's mock draft
Right.
selections are going around. For Red Wings fans around the league, maybe you're listening to this for some reason. I don't know. But I'll just give you the first hint. You may or may not have won the mock draft lottery. So congratulations.
I mean, positivity?
I mean,
Zen?
we've kind of with our other podcast, we talked about the fact that last year was funny because the Ottawa Senators were so bad and they didn't have their first round pick.
Right.
At least the Red Wings have their first round pick.
Yeah, and worst is what, fifth, right? Or fourth? Fourth, yeah.
So, I mean, this looks like a really heavy draft.
I mean, yeah, like,
There is defenseman galore if you're looking for that.
yeah, if you drop down a few and you can pick up Drysdale still,
Yeah.
man, he's going to be a good D-man, so.
Yeah. So, yeah, the Wings are here. Not much to be said about the Wings aside from the fact that they're so bad.
Yeah, so please don't lose. Or, at least take this to overtime. Like, if I'm looking for anything, it's just don't lose the battle.
If they somehow end up points like without a point in this game, I will be really furious going into the break.
Right. I'm not sure. I wonder if Larkin is hurt. I remember we were watching their other game. I can't even remember who they were playing, but he took a fall into the end boards and kind of tweaked his ankle, so I'm not sure if he's going to be in the lineup.
I think he looks like he's playing.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be bad for them, having Mantha out already and then Larkin. Like, their season can get any worse, But yeah, that'll be it before the break, and we come back from the break and we got a freaking 5-game roadie, so
Yeah.
should be interesting.
So here's the stats on this game. The Avs, like we just said, tied for second for goals. The Red Wings not tied. They are last in the league for goals for.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Shots on goal, they are last. Avs are 8th. Power play, they are 29th. Ours is 20th, so we can't exactly make fun of them too much for that, unfortunately. Kind of like the San Jose game. Maybe, score a power play goal or something.
Yeah, it could help.
Defensive stats, also last in the league for the Wings for goals against. Obviously, when they are
minus 81?
So minus. They're probably worse than that because there was a game on Saturday.
Right.
I would think.
Yeah. It's got a sting.
Let's see what it is. Minus 85.
Oh, yeah. Woo. There we go. Lost by another 4 goals.
What did we call it? The NHL's version of the
Ryder Cup?
Ryder
Cup, yeah. Minus 81, boys. We're in the red.
Man,
lots and lots of birdies out there.
Oh, eagles and such. Maybe albatrosses.
Yeah, probably with minus
fans.
81.
But yeah, so their penalty kill is also the worst in the league, 73%. So
jeez. If there's any game to get the power play going, there you go, boys. Come on. pot a few.
I don't care. I said I'd be disappointed if they don't get points in this game. I'd be very disappointed if they don't get a power play goal in this game.
Depending how many power plays, I would 100% agree.
Because what? They probably got the most penalty minutes in the league too, I would think.
Detroit?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Oh, actually, no. Only 18th.
Yeah.
8.5 a game. Still, I don't know. There's not much to say about this game aside from the fact that if you think you expected a one-sided game against San Jose, you should really expect a one-sided game against the Wings.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, don't get too ahead of yourselves. It's still the NHL. They're still a hockey team. They still deserve to be here, regardless of how bad they are.
And you never know. Any given night.
I've said it. I think this is a very big time trap game for the Avs.
Oh, yeah. Especially because it's last game before
Yeah,
the break.
exactly.
Afternoon game, too.
Afternoon game. Like, they just got 18 shots
Yeah.
in an afternoon game.
Yeah, we got to wake up a little bit earlier,
Well, see, that wasn't even the problem.
Yeah, you're right.
It was a whole, they fell
both.
asleep.
Yeah, it was both teams, too, realistically.
Yeah, that too.
So. Although,
But so, go Avs, and hopefully we go on the break with potentially 7 of 8 points in the last 4 games.
That'd be the way to do it.
Thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you on Thursday. Don't forget to visit us on Twitter at Offside by a Mile to join our conversation and have your voice heard. Also, check out the rest of the Hockey Podcast Network on Twitter at HockeyPodNet and thehockeypodcastnetwork.com. You can listen to the podcast there or anywhere you get your podcasts from. The biggest thing you can do to support us is by going to iTunes or Apple Podcasts and giving us a 5-star rating. Also, if you're looking to donate to the network, visit the Hockey Podcast Network's Patreon page. All donations go straight to the podcast host. Thanks, and see you next episode.
You're listening to the Hockey Podcast Network on Twitter at HockeyPodNet. New episodes every Monday and Thursday. Download at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com or wherever you get your podcasts from.